Welcome back to Survival of the Shittest. I am Stanley, the shittest one Williams, coming back to cover the movie Willys Wonderland. So, a recently released movie, surprise, surprise for me. Just to get started, some house cleaning, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Not entirely sure what it does on YouTube side, but it does make my endorphins go up a little bit every time I see a new view or subscriber. So that's all pretty fun. As you might be able to tell from the lighting, I am actually doing this quite early. I've woken up early and I thought, you know what, I'll record. So it's about 7 a.m. Pretty crazy. So we should probably first of all cover what Willys Wonderland is, and it's sort of a Five Nights at Freddy's movie with Nick Cage as a complete badass and some kids, young adults. Honestly, I fucking love this movie. It was so good. Nick Cage knocks out of the park with his very stoic, not talking character. The animatronics looked terrifying, which was great because that's what they're meant to do. And there was just some badass moments. There's a jukebox scene. There's some great shots in it. Nick Cage doing some dancing when he's doing the pinball machine. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of B movies and intentional B movies as well, like VFW from last year, the year before. Fantastic as well. So this movie really hit all my buttons. I've never even played Five Nights at Freddy's, but it was just so fucking cool. I'll come across it. I'll bring up a couple of bits in the survival moments that particularly hit some sweet spots. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's out on VOD now. I definitely recommend. You're not going to be disappointed. It's only an hour and a half long, so it's not even like you have to invest loads of time in it. So Nick Cage is tasked with cleaning Willys Wonderland overnight, and in the first survival moment, he is accosted by an animatronic ostrich, who sort of lunges at him. Manages to get his face, but uses a bit of duct tape as a plaster, which is a old school fucking cool move. It just brings back childhood memories. Duct tape plasters. So this ostrich says he's gonna eat the flesh off his face and sort of starts pecking at him. And Nick Cage uses the mop that he's using to take down the ostrich. Snaps it in half over his knee. Another cool move. My plan of action here, similar. You're going to see this crop up a few times over this movie. It's about the animatronics' mobility. I think I'm slightly more mobile, so I've got that going for me. And I'm probably going to look around and see what other weapons there are. And there's plenty of chairs in this room. So what I think is the best option for me is to grab one of the chairs and sort of lion tamer it. Because this ostrich's got a long sort of snaking neck. But if you've got a chair with 4 prongs, you can sort of block it, which is a bit better than a mop. So that's sort of my plan of action. I think manoeuvring it with a chair, sort of duck and dive in, you can batter it with the chair. The animatronics don't hold up massively well. I don't know if it's because Nick Cage has got super strength, but my plan of action is to use a chair as a weapon as opposed to the mop, or both. You know, one hand with the chair in it, one hand with the mop, sort of sword and shield style. I think it's doable. Okay, next up we have a gorilla animatronic in the bathroom, and Nick Cage has just cleaned the bathroom and he goes back in because he hears, "It's your birthday," and he goes in and says, "It's your birthday" in the mirror, and he hears, "Let's play hide and seek," and he goes through the toilet. The gorilla swings down and starts beating him up. And in my notes, I've got I fucking love a bathroom fight because they always deliver. They're always super brutal, and this is no different at all. It's got a urinal curb stomp, which is fucking brutal but awesome. But we're here to discuss how I would survive this, and the mobility comes in again. So I played D&D, and favourite tactic of mine is the bottleneck. So I would back into a cubicle. This gorilla's got huge arms that are unwieldy, and he's quite big, so he has trouble manoeuvring things like that. So if I bottleneck the bathroom, he probably can't swing as much at getting close. Go for the jabs. I've done the Rocky fights before, so you know that I'm not confident in my fighting skills, but the bottleneck into the bathroom and then use the plunger like Nick Cage does, barrow back. I think that's the best scenario in terms of survival. But let me know if you think differently, if you think there's an easier way to win. Next up we have Liv getting into Willys Wonderland because they are trying to get Nick Cage out. And she's going through the vents like Die Hard, so a strong move there. And a crocodile animatronic comes after her, and she manages to squirm away from it, falls into the building, but manages to get a strong kick. I think this is relatively easy survival. They're bigger, they're not as maneuverable. This mobility thing keeps going up, and I think that's where I'm getting the best bang for my buck is. And I've got a pretty strong kick, so kicking the crocodile in the face as I'm escaping, I think is going to be good. Okay, next. And my reliance on mobility might be undermined here, because this is the sort of Siren Pixie looking animatronic, and she is a lot more flexible and a lot more jumpy than the rest of them. So I think here I'm actually going to try and stop mobility. I'm going to sort of go for a wrestling move. If I can grab onto them, I might be able to sort of wiggle about and sort of do damage in a sort of wrestling submission move fashion. So that's where I'd go for the first Pixie fight. Okay, so just before we get into the 7th, I think, survival moment, I just want to say that I love the backstory of the Willys Wonderland. It's very Child's Play-esque, sort of satanic, jumping into mechanical creatures. I mean, Chucky isn't he's mechanical. So yeah, very Child Play-esque. But the 7th survival moment, Willy the Weasel is distracting the group, and then the night animatronic shoves the sword straight through one of the young adults. Now, in my scenario, if I've just entered this place where I've just explained to Nick Cage that satanic rituals and serial killings went on, probably a little bit more aware of my surroundings than just watching Willy the Weasel. I mean, there's 4 of us in this room at a time, so let's all pay a little bit more attention. But when it comes down to the fight with the night animatronic, I'm going back to mobility again. He's very big, telegraphed swings, as we can see when he's in the kitchen fighting against Liv. And then when he has a bit of fight back against him from Nick Cage, he pretty much drops the sword straight away. And Nick Cage slams him into the wall pretty easily. So if I can sort of duck and dive and sort of get him off balance, he's probably going to drop the sword, and I'm just going to pick up the sword. It's a very sharp sword, it's not a fake sword, and I'm just going to behead him like Nick Cage does. So that's the plan of action against the night animatronic. Okay, so I think this is actually number 7 and the last one was number 6. Doesn't really matter the numbers, because I'm sure you're not really paying that much attention to that. But this one, call me frigid, call me a loser. No matter how freaky my partner is, I'm not shagging in a room where multiple homicides have happened. And especially not when we've broken in here to try and burn this building down, and especially not when the belief is that these animatronic creatures have been possessed by serial killers. Look, yeah, you might be like, oh Stan, you're such a loser. Why wouldn't you have sex in this creepy abandoned building? Well, it's just, look, not to kink shame anyone, but it's just not my thing. And also, there's more pressing issues on mind, like the crocodile animatronic that we now have to fight. Luckily, I think my plan of action here is, because I wouldn't be distracted so much by the shagging, there's a lot of weapons in the room, and also like Nick Cage does, the grab and pull open maneuver is actually a very strong move. So I think that's what I'll be doing as well. And I mean, like, you've got the room's quite big, so you can duck and dive a bit, and there's bits and pieces littered about that you can pick up to use as a weapon. Okay, so next up is not a Nick Cage fight. It's not even really a fight, but I thought I'd put it in here. So one of the young adults, the kids, is in a strobing light room and is attacked by the pixie and the sort of turtle bear. And I think the plan of action here, he just gets fucked up. But the plan of action for me is to get out of the strobing light room because it's strobing lights, you can't really see, and it plays well for the movie, don't get me wrong, because it's got the pixie flashing up in the strobes and things like that. But my plan of action here is to get out of this room and then use the rest of the time to find a weapon and fight. If I don't get out of the room, I guess arms out, spin, just, you know, try and do, like, because he doesn't do anything, but I just try and do a devastating spin attack, I guess. But yeah, so that's that one. Okay, so this next one is the Chameleon, and we're starting out where the Chameleon comes into the arcade room and tries to trick, I think it's Chris, his name, but saying, "Oh, I'm not like the others. I was trapped here by evil, but I'm not like the others. I just want to sort of die." And Chris gets up and believes that, in my notes I've just got, "I wouldn't fucking believe this thing." And then when it turns out that isn't true, and Nick Cage comes in, I've got the "I fucking knew it." So I do stand up, I do engage, but as soon as he starts talking, I just charge in, go for the grab, go for the swing into the arcade machines. She's got a large tongue that she uses, but if you can grab that yourself and sort of use that to pull it down onto the floor, and just sort of wail on it, like, I think it's a relatively easy one as long as you're not buying into the traps. Okay, now we have Pixie and Turtle in the corridor as Nick Cage is dragging Chameleon out to put her in the bin, and Nick Cage just one punches both of them. So realistically, they can't be that tough. It's in a corridor as well, so I think I go for the old maneuver into a 1v1 fight. There's not enough room for both of them to take swings at me, so take one of them out. The difficulty here, I think, is that I won't want to take the fight to the ground, but also I would want to take the fight to the ground, because if you're on the ground on top of something, the one behind can come at you, so you want to keep your distance from one whilst keeping the other in. Maybe use that one as sort of a bit of a human shield. And then this is sort of combined in Nick Cage. There's a load of actual story that happens. Nick Cage ends up handcuffed and left to fight the pixie and the chameleon. We don't see all of the fight, but Nick Cage ends up killing the pixie by sort of crushing its neck, crushing his head with his knees, and then gets the handcuffs in front of him and like absolutely demolishes the chameleon. I don't think I would be as good in a handcuffed 2v1 fight, surprisingly enough. I am the shittest after all, but I did do one lesson of capoeira, the Brazilian, I believe, dance fighting when I was in primary school, so 22 years ago, 24 years ago, and I remember basically nothing of it, but I did play as Eddie Gordo a couple of times on Tekken as well, until he's obviously banned, so I could throw in at least one kick, and also a double footed drop kick is always an option. And if you can get their handcuffs out from under your feet, the old handcuff choke is a very strong move as well. So I mean, I don't think I've got this one as much as I think I've got some of the others, but it's doable. Okay, this next one, pretty simple. Liv is in a police car getting driven back to town, and the turtle attacks them. He's taking the shotgun bullets, he's throwing away the car keys, but it turns out that the butt of a shotgun is very easily used to disable and take him out. I put in my notes here that it seems like the robots here aren't necessarily too good at fighting, or they're not too durable. I think that's just obviously they're serial killers. They're not used to fighting, especially not against someone like Nick Cage's character. But I think they just rely on the fact that they're living killer robots. And like, look, it's a good thing to rely on. You're probably gonna win 9 times out of 10. But I think if you actually come up against them, then they're a lot more beatable than if you would just run away. This is the last one now, unfortunately, because I could have done with another, maybe even half an hour of this movie. But it's Willy versus Nick Cage's character, and Nick Cage has a lot of energy drinks in a bag, for drinks that he's been drinking throughout the movie on his breaks. And he's got the broken mop in half and got two strapped them together, and it's like a gunslinger fight where they're looking at each other and they sort of encroach on each other. Some great shots. Willy swings, he's a lumbering big weasel thing, and Nick Cage just takes him apart. And I don't think I could do this as efficiently as Nick Cage. I don't think I could do anything as, maybe not efficiently is the word for Nick Cage's oeuvre, but I don't think I'm going to be as good in terms of acting or in terms of batshit insaneness. But I do think I could win this fight, and the way I'm doing that is I've probably made improvised weapons as well. That's a given. I'm the MacGruber of the group. Not MacGyver, MacGruber. Great film, you should watch it. And my tactics here, sort of, Willy seems very top heavy, so I'm trying to dodge the big lumbering swipes, and I'm going for the legs and I'm taking them out. And if it's 1v1 and you get on top of it, Willy, and sort of use your improvised weapons to pound on, I think that's a lot better than doing a stand-up where he can use his superior reach to get you. So, another doable fight. Okay, so that was Willys Wonderland, and I didn't do the percentages, things like that, but this is, like I said, recorded early in the morning, and I just wanted to sort of talk about this movie and how I would cover it a little bit more than go into too specifics, as if the percentages are specific. Let's be honest, I just make them up with a little bit of estimation and a little bit of guesses. But like I said, I fucking loved this movie. It was real fun. It's definitely a good one to watch if you can spare the bit of cash, and if you can, make sure you do, because these movies need to be made. Basically, I would happily watch a sequel of this movie set somewhere else. And sure, not all of the plot makes sense, and I think that's part of the charm. The town making a deal with Willys Wonderland seems crazy, considering they are very easily taken out. But there we go. So another little reminder to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Like I say, don't entirely know what it does on YouTube, but it makes me feel a little bit happy. And stay shit.